to maybe the last for the night. Boston. Oh wait, Boston depth chart. Um.
But,
So yeah.
who's your starters?
Um. I think that these guys would be starters. I wouldn't be surprised if Grant Williams starts ahead of Horford. Um. But
And
but given that I think um the seniority is there, plus they might need some boost off the bench. So, but I don't see it as a surprise if that happens. I can see Grant Williams starting over Horford from time to time as well. Fantasy wise, though, I don't think both are really good options. Although Horford really played well, surprised us a bit last year.
yeah, Horford stats, if you agree with me, is basically like John Collins. If you look at it,
Yeah.
they're very similar. If you look at their stats last year, aside from John Collins scoring more, 16 to 10, everything is almost point something away. Even the percentages. John Collins shoots better, but Horford shoots better free throw. So it's basically like Horford. The difference is Horford is dropping. He's now past 100. And again, he's another one of those boring guys that I think if he lasts long enough, he can be a good value. It lasts long enough. I'm not asking you to pick him in the top 100 or even in 105 or 110. It's really too boring. And that's only the round 9, 10. If you can get him later than that, 11, because people will look for. I'm not going to be surprised if the Vanderbilts, the Claxtons, everybody else will pick those ahead of Horford. To the point where Horford in round 11 is still there, round 12 is still there. I think he becomes okay, right? He becomes a value.
No,
So
what's interesting here in uh, Boston is that if you look at this depth chart, it looks like it's so thin. There's been, I mean, we've seen depth charts wherein there are 17, 15 players. Of course, the roster is not yet final. But this looks like a very thin roster. I don't think
yeah,
they'll make many more changes, especially after the KD case, or KD trade has died down. Um, and having said that, there are a lot of you know fantasy assets here as well. I mean, Brogdon's here, Derek White's here. These are some of the players that can still contribute. Mm, but I don't think Brogdon is gonna be as good as the Indiana Brogdon.
yeah. He's the if you're gonna ask me, guys, stay away from. Brogdon is number one in this list. I'm not picking Malcolm Brogdon this year. No, I don't care if he stays healthy. Let Jeremy deal with that. Jeremy doesn't have any hair anymore, so nothing will fall off anymore. So even if he's the best case, he plays 75 games. He's coming off the bench. There's Derek White, there's Marcus Smart, there's Jaylen Brown, even Brayton Pritchard. There's just so many players that, given his very, very fragile body, the Celtics won't give him 35 minutes or
Yeah,
32 minutes.
yeah.
He probably gets 24, the most, 25, 23. That's not enough, and that's not worth drafting and worth,
This is
having headaches for.
this is an acquisition by Boston to help them during the playoffs. I mean, there's
Yes.
like these old players who are tested, battle tested already, reliable, who can be consistent. So they'll preserve them for the playoffs. And Brayton Pritchard has been regarded. I read an article that he's been regarded as one of the probably the most underrated player in the NBA right now among his peers. He was regarded by his peers as the most underrated player in the NBA. So they'll probably give him some chance to shine as well. So yeah, Brogdon, stay away. Robert Williams is going to be interesting as well. He's been moving up the ranks, I guess, since last year. Is he that next level center already? Has he Is he a player that can move past the Rudy Gobert, those
Yes.
guys? the Vucevic,
Yes.
right? Those guys who have for the
Yes.
longest time are the second rounders, the top tier centers in the league, fantasy wise. Will
Robert
you
is
pick him
already a
first?
fast.
Will you pick him first over players like Rudy Gobert?
I will not pick him over Gobert. I'll pick him over Vooch. But I can see him. I can see the reason, a reason why you pick him over Gobert though. They're interchangeable for me this year. My only worry about Robert Williams is the injury because the last time we saw him, he hobbled his way to the playoffs. I don't know how healthy that he is, given that that was just what a couple of months ago, and we don't know how the damage there is. There's no news about it. There's no update about it. But assuming he's healthy, he has recovered, there's no reason if you're in a 14 team league you don't consider him mid second round as early as that. As early as 2022, maybe 28, 20 until 28, I think he should be considered there. He definitely have to pick him over Nikola Vucevic. Come on. Which is past his prime. And Robert Williams last year had 2.2 blocks, only a turnover, shot 73% free throw, 70+% field goal, double-double. He's gonna get more than that this year, as long as he stays healthy. So the only reason I might stay away picking him in the top 25 is because of health. If not, if I'm in the 23, 24, 25, even in the 21 to 25 range, I will consider him already.
And that's a
I'm that
real
high on
concern.
him.
I think the injury is a real concern because even last year, he's been in and out of that
Yes. Yes.
IL due to various injuries, particularly the knees, the foot, whatever below the waist, right? I mean, there's been injuries all over for Robert Williams, and like you said, he played hobbled in the playoffs, but still played well, right?
Yes,
Still played
exactly.
well.
Pero
Um,
but you asked me, will I pick Gobert or Williams? I'll answer it. I'll pick Gobert first. I value the stability and the less risk with Gobert. So
yeah,
even if I think I would like the stats of Williams this year more than Gobert per game, I'll go Gobert.
yeah. Gobert is still as solid as they come. Not
Yeah.
like we said, we always talk about this. He's not. He's one of the boring picks as well. While
Yes.
Robert Williams is probably the sexier pick. But in terms of the ceiling, I think you know Robert Williams has more to go as long as he keeps himself healthy. All right, yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything you want to add here in Boston? I'm not sure
Maybe
if there's any player here who can really surprise us this year. Derek White, quickly, maybe Derek White.
I'm
Very
not. I'm
underrated
not.
before, um, but in Boston, how do you see him?
I've never been a fan of Derek White. I don't know. I don't know why. Yeah, there's Brogdon there. I think they would probably share minutes off the bench, and then you know, Smart also. So sorry, I know there's lots of Derek White fans out there in fantasy, but I'm just not one of. Never been one of them. Never been one of them. It's always been disappointing. I don't see that changing. So no, I'm not high on Derek White.
Yeah, and do you think Marcus Smart sticks there?
Yeah. Marcus Smart sticks. Marcus Smart in the 870s or 80s. Yeah, he's again the maybe boring, but he's underrated. He's underrated. What he gives aside from if you're punting field goal, especially, he's a guy you need to consider. He's a guy you need to consider because that's really basically his only problem. The field goal.
And the
The field goal.
turnovers.
Yeah, a little turnovers, but I think with Brogdon and White there, they could play small. They could play smart shooting guard again. So turnovers might help him. Actually, the guy that maybe lastly that we can talk about is Jaylen because
Yeah, I was just
last
about to
year
say
Jaylen
so.
Jaylen was a third rounder last year. Sometimes even a late second rounder, 27, 28. He's now at the 50s. So I don't know what happened or why that's happening, but he disappointed last year. And the injury last year, yeah, now I remember. Because I own him in three of my three of my leagues last year. The injury, the hamstrings. And that's
He
probably the
actually had
reason
a
he's
good
dropping.
start last year. I think, if I remember correctly, he had a
Yeah,
really good start
yeah.
last year. Scored
The
really well. I think he had a 40-point game or something like that.
That was the New York game. I think it was the opener, the New York game that went to overtime or something,
Yeah,
and he was really good. But then he got
he
injured,
got hurt.
and
Yes.
yeah. This year, do you see any improvement in Jaylen Brown's game, or this is Jaylen
No,
Brown?
yeah, I
Is
think
he
this is
becoming
Jaylen Brown.
Tobias? Is he
I
becoming
think this is
another
yeah.
boring guy?
I think this is Jaylen Brown. I think the difference. This is the probably peak Tobias, peak Chris Middleton here. The Jaylen Brown last year. I think what what I expected last year was a little more rebounding, right? Because 2 years ago he was really good at those departments, the rebounding and the scoring. But last year, like you said, the injuries haunted him a bit and his managers a bit. So yeah, I think this is peak Jalen Brown. 50s though. Did you say 50s?
Yeah, he's currently 57th in Yahoo.
All right, I feel that's really good value already at the 50s. He's still the number two guy here in Boston. And from there would be nights he will be the number one guy here. And you know, Jason Tatum is really not a clear number one guy in Boston. If you think about it, he's had some lows as well in Boston. If he doesn't play well, there's always Jalen Brown who's gonna you know swoop all those responsibilities scoring wise. So I think he can be these two guys are like 1A, 1B. It's just that Tatum contributes a lot more in other categories and he's flashier, I guess, or the moves are nicer to look at, I guess, when it comes to Tatum.
I think I can't agree with the 1A, 1B. I think last year we've disproved that they're not similar players or very near or close in fantasy. Because some people did say that last year. You got Jalen and Tatum are almost the same, but we've disproved that. Tatum is a first rounder and Brown is not. He's not even a third rounder at this point. He's a fourth to fifth rounder. So there's a difference between the two of them.
Yeah, but
I'm just
I think at the 50s, that's too far off for me. I think that's too far off.
But are you picking him over? I see Vassell and higher than him actually.
I'm picking him
So
over Vassell.
okay,
I
over
think I'm pick,
Kelton.
yeah.
Okay,
But I have my own biases on Keldon. I'll probably pick Vassell more over Keldon for me. I used to like Keldon, but he hasn't really been good.
Bane.
I think Bane over Bane, Jalen Brown over Bane.
Yeah. I think
Um,
those are the players I see here in this range: Bane, Vassell, Keldon, Jordan. Well, not Jordan Poole, but
you know what?
um,
I think I still like Jalen Brown over Bane.
okay.
Do you like Bane over Jalen Brown?
Yeah, I like Bane over Jalen Brown. Only because where would Jalen Brown improve? That's why I asked the question to you. Is there anything else that he can improve? Because Bane was top 30 last year. Bane was top 30 last year, and you remember there's no JJJ this year, and there's no big acquisition from Memphis. So I think I might go Bane over Brown.
Here's why I still don't like Bane over Jalen is because Bane did that just for a year. I'm still not
Yeah,
too
true.
sold. And the time that he did that, everyone picked him past the 100, right?
Yeah.
So that's gonna be really good. But if you're gonna pick him 30s, I'm not sure if that's gonna be good for you guys. I mean, I don't like that. I'd rather it's just that I just feel like I'm not as confident yet with
Interesting.
Bane. With Bane, I think Jaden has shown sometimes that he can be the top dog. Maybe not as close to, like you said, Tatum, but Bane, I'm not too sure if he can continuously do that. Given the teams would probably zero in on him without Jaren Jackson. I think without Jaren Jackson, he might have more opportunities, but you also would have more attention on him
Fair enough. Fair enough.
defensively.
Yeah.
So I think just the trust factor. But if you bring down Bane to a later rounds maybe. I think 30s. If you pick Bane 30s, that's too high for me. I think
Yeah,
the
I think Bane
40s
Bane is
maybe.
Bane is beside Jaylen. They're basically beside each other, 40s, 50s. So that's why I asked those, because probably those will probably be the listener's choice also when the draft comes. When they're
Ah,
there, they're gonna see Bane, they're gonna see Terry Rozier, they're gonna see CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown.
you
That's what
see,
they're gonna see at that stage.
yeah,
They're,
but if you talk
they're,
about, during those range, CJ McCollum's probably pretty much on the same level as Jaylen Brown, but are they the same level with Bane at this point?
I like Bane over them this year.
Because they're
Even
younger. He's younger, right?
he's younger, and CJ has, well, maybe we can talk about New Orleans next, but yeah, I foresee some drop in CJ this year. I foresee some drop in CJ, especially if Zion's healthy.
Maybe
So
a big part of it for me is that I've seen more of what they can do for a longer period of time than I've seen Bane do it for just a year. Maybe that's just it. But maybe you could be right. I mean, Bane could be
but it's
a
good
consistency.
because this is conversation that will open our minds. I'm still debating in my head because I've been looking at this range. I was shocked Jalen dropped that low, so that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
So good conversation about
Yeah,
it.
we'll probably talk more about Bane in our Memphis depth chart, but yeah, it's just that I haven't seen enough of Bane. 1 year is not enough, uh, right? 1 year is not enough. Was he in a contract year last year?
No, no,
Not
no.
yet. All right.